It's a pleasure to see you and talk about this film.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit. You play a priest with a bit of a twist.
Yes. I played Dolan the 37th, who is a priest in a long line of priests who is tasked with serving Calder, Vin Diesel's character, the witch hunter, and keeping black magic at bay and humanity safe. That's the overarching idea. But he has what you come to find out about him is that he's got a prior relationship with witchcraft as it relates to his family. And it very much informs on who he is sort of underneath the surface.
This is a work of fiction, but if you go on the internet and research witchcraft across the years, there's so many interesting facts about people being hunted. So do you get interested in that world as well? Was it part of your research?
I didn't do any research. It really felt like what we were trying to do, or what they were trying to do with this film in regards to the way that witches were represented, was something both recalling sort of the overall mythology of witchcraft, but also something quite new. You know, contextualizing them in a modern sense, the idea that they all live amongst us in secret. But no, witchcraft is something that's always intrigued me. I've always been fascinated by the notion of witches. I believe in them. I believe they exist. I believe that people believe in that power. And, you know, I remember being 9, 10 years old and reading about the Salem witch trials and being very fascinated that that was part of American history. And, you know, I think I've always been drawn to things that are slightly darker and, you know, have a sort of insidious, strange nature to them.
No, absolutely, and it makes for good movies because technically it also makes your imagination work in every single way. So
Totally.
Let's talk about you know, visual effects and how they motivate the role in films like that. How much were they part of the shooting?
Visual effects, you couldn't make a movie like this without them. I would say for us, we were not that aware of their presence. A great deal of what the visual effects in this film did is they sort of enhanced what was already there. So we had a lot of practical effects. We were in real sets, real locations. We used practical makeup effects, really incredible makeup effects. And in many cases had, you know, for the Sentinel, for instance, at the end of the film, we had a version of that built. So we had that on set, we could see it. So it often felt very tactile. We, you know, unlike other films that use a lot of digital effects, we didn't really have green screens. We had a great deal of the practical world around us, which was wonderful.
Absolutely, it's a bit like Lord of the Rings. It puts you back into a whole world, basically. And it makes it quite, you know, enthusiastic to turn up on those kinds of sets because there are so many things around you that are inspiring, right?
Totally, yeah, there's this incredible set. There's a witch council that sort of presides over the trials of accused witches in regards to them potentially performing black magic. And it was a massive set. I remember seeing it for the first time, and it takes you back to being a child. I still feel that way. I mean, I'm often in awe of the magic of cinema. I'm not cynical. I still find it so fascinating and awe-inspiring. And to be, you know, an adult walking onto a set, it just transports you back to childhood again, where you just think, this is pretty magical what we get to do, to create these incredible environments that aren't real, and yet they feel so real.
Absolutely, and an actor that loses his candor about the magic of cinema is kind of a sad actor because, you know, you don't want to be blasé as an actor, do you?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any way to, certainly not for me. You know, I mean, aside from that side of things, where you're walking onto a set and there's this sort of majesty of what's created for cinema, I still go to the movies and I'm still in awe of what is possible. Not just at this level, not just, you know, effects or fantasy-driven films, but also the, you know, what can be done with cinema I still think is magical.
Talking about that and magic, Sir Ian McKellen or Sir Michael Caine? Or both?
Oh, both. There's no picking between the two of them. They also, they operate in very different spaces.
Yes.
McKellen has his own kind of vibe about him, and Michael Caine his own as well. But it was an honor. It was an honor to meet him and to work with him, and he was so lovely. And he was only with us for a week. Shot out most of his scenes in a week. But I remember the first day he came to set, and everyone had this anxiety and nervousness that he was coming to set. It was like, you know, this legend, and we were all kind of nervous. But he was very sweet, It was awesome.
Yeah, because he's so down to earth and he's got this quiet confidence as an actor. He's like so sure of what he's doing, which is quite inspiring.
Yes, it is.
Well, let's talk about Vin Diesel and him in a role that, viewers have not seen him before. Tell us about the experience. You hadn't worked with him before, so the expectations of meeting him.
Sure, yeah. I don't know what I expected. But he was very friendly, and he has a great amount of enthusiasm. He's a big personality. And I think what I found intriguing is that he's got a real connection to fantasy. He grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons and reading Tolkien. Like, this is a side of him that we haven't really seen in the context of any of the characters that he's played. And in some ways, Calder is an interesting hybrid of what we're familiar with and something altogether very different. So to see him in the modern context with his, sort of long jacket and his guns, we know to a certain degree that side of Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
But we don't know the bearded sort of warrior man. And that I just found that so interesting that he got to express a different sort of side of who he is. And I think he loved it.
Whilst tempting you with a fast car, but you decline it in the film, don't you?
I do. It's an awesome car, by the way. I think it was an Aston Martin. Very cool.
Well, it did look cool.
Yeah.
It did look cool. Tell us about the films that have made you dream when you were younger, that motivated your imagination, that made you want to be in the profession that you are in today.
Well, I was raised on things like, The Goonies and...
Love that film.
Yeah, me too. Indiana Jones and Back to the Future and, animated films like The Secret of Nim. I grew up on all of those great films from the 80s that were larger than life. But also, at their heart, as grand as the storytelling was, they were also about real people, and there was an intimacy to the storytelling as well, great characters. So yeah, those are the things that inspired me when I was a kid, like anybody else, I suppose, that was raised in the 80s.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was a great period.
Dude, it was the best. It was a golden age.
Yeah, cinema and music. Oh God, all those rock bands from Britain were fantastic.
But it's such a funny thing because we're in this really interesting phase now where, we were at this panel yesterday and we were espousing the virtues of making, how wonderful it is to be working on a movie that's an original idea in 2015. But I find that very sad that that's actually like one of the merits of the film, because in the 1980s and the 70s and the 90s, everything was original. The qualification of a film or a merit of the film wasn't that it was an original idea. So whilst I'm happy to articulate that about this film and proud of that, I also find it a little weird that that's something that we should be proud of, because we're in a weird time where there are less of these original ideas being made.
Absolutely. We need more happy feet kind of stories where it transports the audience in a completely different world and gives them the enthusiasm that they
and I think we just need to take risks, which is another weird thing. Like, why is a new idea a risk? But it is. So I just feel like we need to pour more into creating new mythologies and new ideas.
And finally, the same way your character was waiting to work with Calder all his life, are there actors that you are yet to work with that really infuse your passion for cinema and you'd like to work with them?
Oh, man. God. There are plenty, I suppose. Nothing's coming to my head right now. But, I think John C. Reilly is brilliant. Guy Pearce is brilliant. I love Bryan Cranston. I mean, I don't know, there's so many incredible actors that I've not yet had a chance to work with that I would love to.